Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps, where in the next hour and a half we're going to be watching 25 supercars doing battle around one of the world's finest racing circuits as we get ready for the third race of the 2017 International GTOpen season. This is the second of 7 stops around some fantastic venues. And you join myself, Ben Evans, on an absolutely gorgeous afternoon here in Belgium. The sun has been beating down unremittingly all day. There's not a cloud to be found in the sky, and it is a very busy grid. So let's head down there and join Johnny Molam.
Thanks, Ben. Well, we're here on the grid for Spa-Francorchamps, probably one of the greatest tracks in the world. And look at the weather. Fantastic grid for the International GTOpen race here. The sun is shining. There's barely a cloud in the sky, which is quite unusual for Spa. We've got here on the right-hand side the pole-sitting Lexus by Alberto Costa. Fantastic lap in qualifying. Let's just see if we can grab a word with him before we start the race. Alberto, congratulations on a fantastic pole lap. Awesome lap. How was it for you out there?
Well, we are not expecting that, to be honest. Yesterday we had an issue in the brakes during the second free practice. When the first free practice I was P3. Actually the rhythm was pretty good, but yeah, as I said, I was not expecting the first stint of new tires. I was P5 or 6, and then I just make improvement in myself because the car was from the beginning really good to drive, and yeah, I improved myself. The car answered my driving really good, and yeah, so happy to be my first pole position on GTs. Also for Lexus and from my team, Emil Frey.
Were you flat in Eau Rouge? I assume you were, yeah?
Yeah, of course. If you want to do pole position, you need to be flat out always.
And what about tyre warm-up? Do you think you'll be able to go flat through Eau Rouge first time at the start of the race?
I don't want to take a big risk, to be honest. I just want to bring the car home in the podium if it's possible, so I will be...
Good luck, mate. Good luck. Thanks very much, Ben.
Thank you very much to Johnny Molam, who is doubling up as being our grid interviewer today and also racing in the second part of the race. So great to hear there from Alberto Costa, winner in the Emil Frey Lexus of the first race of the year in Estoril, on pole position for this afternoon. And Costa and teammate Philip Fromenvila will be hoping to make good progress. But it was a very close qualifying session earlier on because Costa took pole by just 61 thousandths of a second from Michael Mack in the Spirit of Race Ferrari that he shares with Miguel Ramos. Mack and Ramos had a frustrating time in Estoril in that they could never really get into clear air in the races and show their true pace. Third on the grid, the Aston Martin Motorsport BMW of Fran Rueda, car that he shares with Victor Bouveng, and BMWs went well here 2016, and again showing very strongly in qualifying, with fourth on the grid for Rob Bell in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, and Bell showing his experience and class during the qualifying session earlier on. Lining up fifth on the grid will be Andrea Caldarelli. And let's have a look at how they line up in full. This may take some time. So the front row of the grid then, Alberto Costa and Michael Mack. Then row 2, Fran Rueda and Rob Bell. So very strong first couple of rows, but watch the progress of Andrea Caldarelli from 5th on the grid and Com Ledegaard from 6th. They should both shine well. Jules Simoniac replacing Tom Onslow-Cole in the SPS Automotive Mercedes alongside Craig Dolby on row 4. Then XF1 racer Vitantonio Liuzzi, 9th on the grid ahead of Dominic Farnbacher, winner of race 2 in Portugal. Jordan Witt well up in 11th place. Towards the 4 of the Pro-Am class alongside Francesco Cini. Then reigning champion and championship leader Thomas Biaggi or rather third in the standings, Thomas Biaggi on the 7th row of the grid, ahead of Andrea Fontana and Martin Conrad on row 8. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini lines up in 17th, but watch for that car coming through later on in the hands of Marco Ciocci. And the same when Davide Rizzo and Duncan Tappi take over from Alex Moisev and Michael Benham. And we've got a very special newcomer to the series alongside Lorenzo Beirao de Viega this weekend. Nelson Piquet Jr. returning to the GTOpen for the first time in several seasons, with Antonio Coimbra and Ivor Dunbar completing the field. The cars already on to their formation lap ahead of this 70-minute race. There is, of course, the mandatory pit stop that comes between the 28th and 42nd minute mark of proceedings, as they are all running on the control compound Michelin tyre. It has been a remorselessly hot weekend so far, and really perfect track conditions. We should be in for a fascinating and somewhat unpredictable race, because qualifying earlier on saw the positions chopping and changing throughout the course of the session, and really anybody inside the top 10 on the grid you would suspect could challenge the win, and there are others outside the top 10 who could also be to the fore. Keep an eye out for the Aston Martin Brussels entry of Tim Verbeek and Sam de Jong. They line up in 14th position. Francesco Sini, Mauro Calamia should also go well in the Solaris Aston Martin from 12th on the grid. And there's just a brief glimpse of the SF Racing, Ferrari, Vandrea Caldarelli and Fusong Yang. It's Philip Fromenvilla watches on from the Emil Frey Lexus pit as his co-pilot. Albert Costa navigates the cars round on the formation lap, just heading through Fagnes now, out really towards the furthest extremity of the circuit before they swing back round through Stavelot and on to Blanchimont. So there you see the white and dark Lexus, the red and black Ferrari, then the Aston Martin Motorsport BMW. Really impressive performance from Fran Wader in qualifying, just a 10th off pole. As Miguel Ramos watches intently from the Spirit of Race pit box, that very strong third row, Vandrea Caldarelli and Com Ledegaard, and also the Wessex Automotive Lamborghini of Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger. They appeared at Silverstone in the GTOpen last year and won, so they could also challenge over the course of the weekend. And very relaxed, happy atmosphere in the team's pit box earlier on, chatting with the team principal Nigel Mustle. The Triple F Racing Lamborghini Huracan of Vitantonio Liuzzi and Hiroshi Hamaguchi showed great potential in Estoril, but like the Mack and Ramos car, never really got into some clear air. But maybe that will be possible this afternoon, particularly as it's just that little bit easier to overtake here around Spa-Francorchamps. So Albert Costa bunches the field. Michael Mack, 488 Ferrari alongside him. Then we've got the BMW and the McLaren on row 2. So 4 manufacturers inside the top 4 places. Huge field of cars. This is going to be very special. Thank you very much for your company this afternoon. Let's enjoy 70 minutes of action. Cars head out of the bus stop chicane, look towards the gantry as they'll bunch up when the red lights change. We'll be racing for the 3rd time in 2017, and away we go. Who gets the jump as they sprint towards La Source? Well anticipated from Liuzzi, also from Rob Bell in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, who bullies his way past Fran Rueda up into 3rd place. Com Ledegaard has also started well, as has Craig Dolby. Somehow they seem to have made it through without any contact as they sprint down towards Eau Rouge for the first time. It's Costa from Mack, then it's Bell, Ledegaard, Rueda, Craig Dolby, Andrea Caldarelli, and then Jules Simoniac next along in the SPS Mercedes. They climb up through Eau Rouge, out of Radion, and onto the Kemmel Straight for the first time. Renko Bear out of Jaeger just jinks inside Mike Benham as Costa moves across, preemptively covers the inside line as they head towards Les Combes for the first time. This train of supercars all jostling for position before they slink out of Les Combes and then begin the run downhill towards the Bruxelles hairpin and then Pouhon. Costa trying to break away early on. Michael Mack, likewise Rob Bell. Dominic Farnbacher looking to try and pick his way up through the order. Also Kane Ling as well in the Ratón Racing Lamborghini. That's the gold number 11 car you just caught a glimpse of as Craig Dolby kicks up the dust in front of Andrea Caldarelli. Caldarelli might fancy his chances in the Ferrari, looks to the inside of the Lamborghini as Dolby runs out very wide through Paul, and he's going to lose another place. That's the SPS Mercedes. He might also lose out to Vitantonio Liuzzi as Liuzzi draws alongside Dolby as they head into Fagnes and swoops around him. Andrea Fontana's also made a quick start to the race in the first of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghinis. He's now tucked up behind Craig Dolby as they all hurtle in towards Stavelot, and then the blast to Blanchimont. That's where we are heading now. Heat haze shimmers off the cars as they punch their way through this hot afternoon air, just into a momentary shade before they get on the brakes into the bus stop chicane. But Costa leads the way in the Emil Frey Racing Lexus, and it's been a good first lap for Costa, building up a little bit of a buffer over Mikael Mack and Rob Bell. Jordan Witt in the Jordan Racing Bentley, tucked up just behind Francesco Cini as well in the Solaris Aston Martin, as they all run towards La Source. A challenge from Craig Dolby. He looks to the inside of Liuzzi, and Dolby gets through. Liuzzi tries for the switchback, and he might succeed here as the Italian runs alongside the Brit as they head downhill steeply towards Eau Rouge, and Dolby's not prepared to concede, nor is Liuzzi, but eventually Liuzzi has to give second best to Dolby, who rides on the limit as they swoop out of Eau Rouge up over Adion. It's been a good first lap for Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. He is up into 17th place as Smoniak challenges Andrea Caldarelli. There he is in the SPS Automotive Mercedes, up into 6th place overall. Next target, Fran Rueda. Then it's Com Ledegar in 4th. 3rd, Rob Bell. 2nd, Mikael Mack. Through Bruxelles. First of a trio of left-handers. Left-hander with no name that feeds them onto the double left-hander at Pouhon. Just where they arrive now. We've seen in some of the earlier races today here already that Pouhon has proved to be very unforgiving for those who get even a couple of inches offline. Dominic Farnbacher, Farnbacher Racing Lexus, looking to try and light the move on Andrea Fontana in the Imperiale Lamborghini. But the Huracan able to hold its ground. No way for the Lexus Fania, despite the very best efforts of Farnbacher. Everybody just using as much curb as they dare, maybe a little bit more. This is the fight for 10th and 11th. About to be 12th as Jordan Witt tries to close up as well. As the race leaders already blasting into Blanchimont. Got that leading group of 7 cars, then a little bit of a gap back to Craig Dolby as Farnbacher looks to challenge around the outside of Fontana. Brave stuff from Dominic Farnbacher. Can he pull it off? Andrea Fontana just holds on, kicks the Lamborghini Huracan sideways as they come out of Blanchimont towards the bus stop chicane. Oh, that was lovely from both of them, really on the absolute limit. But the Lamborghini keeps the Lexus behind for the moment. There is Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. Chasing Tim Verbeek as Fran Rueda gets demoted by Smonkiak and also possibly by Andrea Caldarelli. In fact, it's only the Mercedes that's able to make the move stick. Fran Rueda, who is one of the lesser experienced drivers in the field, but showed a great turn of pace in qualifying, still mixing it in front of the field as you see this leading septet headed by Albert Costa trying to break the field. Then we've got Mikael Mack from Rob Bell and Com Ledegar. Oh, we've got a safety car. The safety car comes out. There's been an incident over at La Source, according to our timing screen. Can't quite tell you what's happened. Now I can. Oh, it's Francesco Cini and the Martin Conrad who've had it coming together. And Conrad in the Mercedes certainly going nowhere. And Francesco Cini, unfortunately, caught up in that. It's not been the luckiest start to the season for the Solaris Aston Martin squad. And yeah, both cars pretty proximate to the edge of the road and a fair amount of carbon fibre that needs retrieving. So the field all get bunched up. So Albert Costa's immediate advantage has been whittled away. Now this is good news for the teams where they've got their pro driver, where available, coming in for the second half of the race, because it means the field isn't going to spread quite as much. It's bad news for the drivers at the front of the pack. It's also bad news for those who have got the pit handicap seconds carried over from Estoril, and particularly Rob Bell and Sean Balfe in third place. It's going to affect them. Also, Dominic and Mario Farnbacher and Craig Dolby and Thomas Enger, just by dint of being a new all-pro pairing. So it's a dynamic that is worth keeping tabs on. Depends, of course, how long the safety car is going to be out for, but given that we've got two stricken cars up at La Source, the starting point is it might take a little while. It's certainly bad news for the SF Racing team, because Andrea Caldarelli's opportunity to give a reasonably nice buffer to Fu Song Yang has unfortunately been whittled away. So there is the somewhat sorry sight of Martin Conrad's Mercedes being wheeled back. The MS Racing Mercedes, always such an immaculately prepared car, as is the Solaris Aston Martin, and really sad to see both of them getting damaged early on. Hopefully the damage is only cosmetic and that both cars will be repaired and out racing again tomorrow. Well, the marshals here at Spa doing a good job at the moment, so we might just have this one lap behind the safety car, beyond the half lap that we've lost already. Here is another look at the end of it, and we only really catch what happened at the end of the incident. Not sure whom the instigator was. Nonetheless, frustrating. And the safety car backing the field up behind them. Albert Costa from Mikel Mack, then Rob Bell in third, Comledegar fourth. And this is also good news for Craig Dolby, having lost a little bit of ground earlier on. There he is, 8th place. But he's now closing up to the tail of Andrea Caldarelli. Thomas Biaggi, reigning champion, currently 13th overall, just ahead of the Aston Martin Brussels car of Tim Verbeek, and then Lourenco Beirao de Viega up into 15th. So the Portuguese has made good progress, and we'll look forward to seeing how Nelson Piquet gets on when he takes over at the wheel of second of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs a little bit later on. So the field all bunched up. It means that essentially all that has happened in the first 10 minutes of the race has come to naught, except for those that have been able to race their way through and gain a little bit of ground. In terms of the GTOpen class, that is currently being headed by Alex Moisev in the Kaspersky Motorsport Ferrari, and he's in 17th place. That's Antonio Coimbra, who is the second of the GTOpen runners. In terms of the Pro-Am class, which is Rob Bell, currently from Comledegar, and then Jules Simconiac. So is how that class currently is classified. The safety car, good news is coming in at the end of this lap. So we will have a relatively brief hiatus in the safety car before we get back underway. All smiles on the Balfe Motorsport pit wall, slightly fewer smiles in the Spirit of Race pit box, because this safety car means that the window for the pit lane opening is only going to be some 16 minutes or so away by the time we get back up to racing speed. So those that were hoping to make a lot of ground up in the early stage of the race, unfortunately not going to be able to get quite the advantage that they would have hoped for. It is good news though for some of those a little bit further back down the pack, particularly Pier Giuseppe Perezzini and Marco Ciocci. They're currently 19th overall, as Albert Costa, looking to be a little bit ambitious at the point at which he pulls the pin possibly, suggests that through Stavelin on towards Blanchimont, a little bit premature. And yeah, they all, Costa in the Emil Frey Racing Lexus just wanting to pull the pin and get going, trying to give the safety car as much of a buffer as possible, but the safety car, you just got a glimpse of it there, certainly would be passed if Costa got up to speed imminently. It's Alex West, the driver will take over from Comledegar mid-race. West, who drove superbly, of course, last year to take a fantastic win in Monza. And he and Cobb Leathergar returning as a pairing in the Garage 59 McLaren to the International GT Open this year. Certainly starting the season as one of the potential favourites for the Pro-Am class, if not something a little bit more. So now Costa looks to punch the field into the bus stop chicane. Mikael Mack trying to stay with him stride for stride as waits for the Lexus to pull the pin, which it does now. And Costa not really getting any advantage on that restart. Oh, and the problem behind, and around goes Jordan Witt in the Jordan Racing Bentley, who just keeps the car out of the barrier, which is very pleasing to see, as Fran Raider comes under immediate pressure from Andrea Caldarelli, and Caldarelli dispatches the BMW in fairly short order. Raider about to come under a little bit of threat as well from Craig Dolby, but Mikael Mack has judged that restart very nicely, is now poised to threaten Albert Costa as they rush out of Ratón onto the Kemmel Straight. Dominic Farnbacher trying to do much the same to Andrea Fontana in the Imperiale Lamborghini, and Com Leathergar looking to threaten Rob Bell as well. Bell, though, so experienced, doesn't even think about defending from Leathergar. He knows the McLaren's not going to be able to slide past, so he just keeps doing what he was doing. We've got this gap back. Thomas Biaggi in 12th position, as Bell now has to defend into Bruxelles from Com Leathergar. It's bringing some Comiac into it as well in the Mercedes. Heading towards Pouhon, also is allowing the leading duo just to open up a little bit of a buffer now. We'd expect these three cars all to stay out fairly deep into the pit window, which would run until there's 28 minutes left on the clock, so they could well be fighting for the best part of another half hour. Timing of safety cars permitting, as they will just ask a lot of the Michelin rubber through Fagna and then on towards Stavolo. A little bit of a look to the inside of Leathergar, nothing doing there. So Comiac must have to wait a little bit longer. Can't wait for too long because Caldarelli is coming. Craig Dolby, then Liuzzi, and then Farnbacher. So Dominic Farnbacher has dispatched Andrea Fontana, and Fontana has actually dropped some way back from this group, as now Dominic Farnbacher looks to apply the pressure to Vitantonio Liuzzi, as the Mercedes looks to the outside of the McLaren. This is the fight for fourth. Elbows well and truly out for Com Leathergar. We've got another car that's gone off over on the far side of the circuit. We'll pick up who that is momentarily. It's Michael Benham who has gone off. It's a shame for the Garage 59 driver. We'll find out, I'm sure, what happened in due course, as now Caldarelli looks to make further ground still. So they plunge out of Eau Rouge down toward La Source, down towards Eau Rouge rather, and then climbing out of Ratón back into the sunlight. There's a little bit of shade just comes over the pits area as Albert Costa continues to lead. Second place for Mikael Mack, third place Rob Bell, fourth Com Leathergar, or is he? Oh, contact! And Leathergar gets turned around by the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Leathergar spins back on track and is a little bit unsighted possibly on the exit of Les Combes. We hope they all see them. So Comiac rejoins the race, but Leathergar, fairly disastrous lap this for the Garage 59 team. They lost Michael Benham at turn 10. They've lost Benham is up and running, but a long way down. They've lost Com Leathergar now in contact over at Les Combes, and Leathergar not yet back up and running. Also mixed up in all that was Mr. Liuzzi. Here is another look at it. As Leathergar, well, I think it was a little bit optimistic, you would suggest, from Comiac as the safety car comes out. Here's another look at it. The Mercedes went for it very, very late and really had nowhere to go. Took to the grass, therefore less traction. Can't slow the car down at all before clattering in to Com Leathergar. It means that the safety car comes out once more, unfortunately. So for the second time in the afternoon, the safety car is into the fray. And that's the reason why, trying to retrieve the Garage 59 McLaren of Com Ledegaard. Great pity for Ledegaard on the Garage 59 team. Incident that arguably he was certainly a very late move from the Mercedes, by which point Ledegaard had pretty much committed to the corner, and then from certainly the angles we've seen, it's hard to make a case to say the Mercedes was fully alongside. The result is contact. So the safety car picks them up. It means that we're going to be 20 minutes deep into this race, and the field still very evenly matched. Now this, the one driver you have to say who this might play into the hands of, believe it or not, is Michael Benham. So here is how it all started. This was Ledegaard defending his position, bus stop chicane on the previous lap. Firm but fair defence, no contact, and then coming for the move very, very late. Well, arguably a racing incident, and that the problem for Vitantonio Liuzzi, picking up a puncture, possibly from debris, but disappointing nonetheless for the Triple F Racing Lamborghini. And Liuzzi having a fairly torrid trip back to the pits. Carcass of the tyre still just about there, but when it all shakes out, the likelihood is that the Lamborghini is going to have gone a lap down. There is Mike Benham, or rather there's Com Ledegaard. So Ledegaard is up and running, hopefully without too much damage. Whether or not Ledegaard goes into the pits, continues on his way, we will find out. The safety car, meanwhile, is going to be coming in on this lap. They're out on the far side of the circuit. When we do get racing, we're only going to be 8 minutes or so away from the pit window opening. And again, it's the responsibility of Albert Costa to back the field up. Now this is definitely bad news for Rob Bell and Sean Balfe, because they, in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, were looking at an additional 15 seconds in the pits. It's also not great news for the Farnbachers, who had a similar situation. It does start to play into the hands of Pier Giuseppe Perezzini and Marco Ciocci. Also plays into the hands of Jordan Witt and Michael Meadows, and possibly even Ivor Dunbar and Johnny Molam. It certainly will give Molam a fighting chance pushing for the podium, and not least, of course, Lourenco Beirao de Viega and Nelson Piquet. Well, Liuzzi didn't see what caused the puncture, we've just seen the effect of it. Now, with any luck here, Liuzzi may, and it's a big may, be able to get out on the lead lap. Now, Michael Benham, despite his adventures, and we didn't see what happened, he's going to join at the tail of the safety car train, as is Com Ledegaard. So certainly for Benham and Duncan Tappy, all is not lost as well for them in the Garage 59 McLaren from this pit stop. It gives Duncan Tappy a chance to fight through the field later on. Likewise, Giovanni Venturini, so from Thomas Biaggi, who's crept up to 9th. All of which is to say there are still an awful lot of cars that could well win this race, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how events unfold over the next 50 minutes or so. The good news is that all of those that came into trouble, Ledegaard, Benham and Liuzzi, are back into the fray. We lost, of course, Francesco Senior Martin Conrad with that contact up at the source earlier on. So again, Costa just backing the field up. Last time around, you could argue he didn't get the best of the safety car restart and was hustled a little bit by Michael Mack. What will be the case on this occasion? There's any hopes that Costa would have had a building up a big lead. Been rather whittled away. That said, Costa doesn't have any success seconds in the pits, because he and Philip Fromenvilla finished well off the podium in race 2 in Estoril. It's a strong driver pairing as well, Costa and Fromenvilla. As now Albert Costa picks up the pace, this time into the bus stop chicane, trying to shake off the attentions of Michael Mack. Through the chicane, the Lexus followed by the Ferrari, then the McLaren, another Ferrari. Let's get back under racing conditions once more. 48 minutes left on the clock here in this third race of the International GTOpen season. And Andrea Caldarelli looking to push, as is Craig Dolby, trying to find some space to the inside of the BMW into the hairpin. Nothing really doing there for Craig. He's got Dominic Farnbacher, then Andrea Fontana, Thomas Biaggi tucked up just behind him as well. And Dolby still threatening Fran Rueda. Wessex Automotive Lamborghini behind the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW as they climb out of Ratón. Dolby runs a little bit wide, just got to be careful about track limits. And then down the Kemmel Straight, and as Dolby runs wide, it gives Farnbacher the opportunity to maybe challenge in the Lexus. Lamborghini should, though, have just enough over the Lexus. Indeed it does. Then we've got two more Lamborghinis just behind the Imperiale Racing brace of cars. Andrea Fontana, then Thomas Biaggi. They run downhill towards the Bruxelles hairpin. So Cormillac looking to make amends for the coming together with Com Leathergart by trying to pick his way past Thomas Biaggi. Then we've got Tim Verbecht in the Aston Martin Brussels car just behind. A little bit more dust being kicked up again. And a green flag. It's just for the restart, but it's Craig Dolby who loses out now to Dominic Farnbacher, so the Lexus able to eventually overhaul the Lamborghini. Through Fagna, on towards Stavolo, as Cormillac looking to the inside of Andrea Fontana, and certainly nothing ventured, nothing gained seems to be the thinking of the SPS Automotive driver. He's pushing very aggressively and very hard here, and he looks to draw alongside Andrea Fontana as they head towards Blanchimont. Oh, they almost make contact. The Mercedes determined to go for this. Fontana having absolutely none of it, elbows him back into line behind him. Very aggressive racing. Great stuff to watch, though. It's the Mercedes sandwiched between the two Imperiale Racing Lamborghinis. And this has been a very impressive drive so far from Andrea Fontana. Was finding his feet a little bit during the Estoril weekend, but my goodness me, he has been racing well today. Oh, that's aggressive again from the Mercedes. And again, Andrea Fontana having absolutely none of it. Tries to block out the Mercedes as they go through the source, but I think he has had to concede. And yet, the Mercedes gains the position, moves up into 8th place. All that fighting is just bringing Tim Verbeek, there he is, into the mix in the Aston Martin. Also Lorenzo Beirao de Viega, Kang Ling and Alex Moisev in the Kaspersky Ferrari, all the way down into 14th place then. Car still in the mix as Thomas Biaggi just having to cover his line, lest the Aston Martin have some ideas about getting through. Here's the race leader, Albert Costa, with Michael Max still behind him. That's been the order since the start of the race. Rob Bell, by dint of a good start, jumping to 3rd. Andrea Caldarelli has been making good progress after a less than ideal first lap, but the Italian pushing well in the SF Racing Ferrari. And then a little bit of a gap back to Fran Rueda in 5th. There is Nelson Piquet, who'll take over from Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. Currently in 12th place. But again, what you see, once the success seconds, once the balance of drivers has been reversed through the pit stops, then you start to see a very different complexion to the race unfolding, particularly as you'll see some of the teams taking a long game strategy today, looking for championship points and maybe keeping some tyres fresher for tomorrow. You'll see others, if the opportunity presents itself, going all out for the win. Certainly Rob Bell at the moment in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, pushing hard, leading the Pro-Am class from Andrea Caldarelli. With Albert Costa and Michael Mack running in the Pro class. 43.5 minutes, so just 90 seconds until the pit window opens. We saw one car then ducking into the pit lane. Now who was that? It's Dominic Farnbacher, in fact, into the pit. So Farnbacher Racing Lexus picking up a little bit of a problem. So disappointing for that car, as it was the championship leading car coming into today. So the issue, whatever it might be, it's not an awful lot of work going on the car at the moment. As Caldarelli looks to apply a little bit of pressure to Rob Bell. This is the fight for third and fourth. Bright red McLaren leading the black and silver Ferrari. Got the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW just in behind them. Out of the Bruxelles hairpin, swinging downhill. Rob Bell, very experienced driver at this level, he's not going to be flustered by Andrea Caldarelli. Same time, Caldarelli is one of the very fastest in the business. So he knows all the pressure points to try and ease past the McLaren. Meanwhile, that is Marcello Hahn bumping alongside Com Ledegar, as Ledegar already post-safety car up to 17th. Michael Benham up into 18th. So both of the Garage 59 McLarens running well as the pit window is now open. This is where the strategy is going to start to come into play. I think we'd expect to see fairly promptly into the pit lane Michael Benham to hand over to Duncan Tappi. Likewise, Pier Giuseppe Perezzini to pass over to Marco Ciocci. Meanwhile, Rob Bell and Andrea Caldarelli might stay out a little bit later on into the race. So Albert Costa leads by 2.2 seconds from Mikel Mack. Rob Bell in third is a further 3.6 seconds back, so he's 6 seconds off the lead. Andrea Caldarelli 6 seconds off lead. Fran Rueda 8 seconds off lead and ducks into the pit. So Rueda to hand over to Victor Bouveng. So that promotes Jules Simconviac, who will stay out a little bit longer. Also in is Craig Dolby in the Wessex Automotive Lamborghini to pass over to Thomas Enger. Andrea Fontana is in as well, and it will be Vito Postiglione who takes over from Fontana. So the Teo Martin Motorsport team get to work. To Bouveng swapping in. Jordan Witt is also in. He will hand over to Michael Meadows. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini to pass over to Marco Ciocci. Dominic Farnbacher remains in the pits. So Postiglione taking over from Andrea Fontana, but Fontana having had a very good stint. There's Michael Meadows jumping in from Jordan Witt. And Thomas Enger being strapped into the wheel of the Wessex vehicles, Lamborghini Gallardo. So this is the point the race starts to go into a little bit of flux. It's also the point at which Albert Costa's potentially racing cars he can't see, and a problem now for Jules Simconviac. Certainly had his adventures today, and the Mercedes limping its way back to the pits. Just wonder if it may have picked up a little bit of a puncture. Renko Beirao de Viega continues on his way. He's got Kang Ling just behind him. He's chasing Tim Verbeek, so that is makes some challenges. Also into the pit lane have come Michael Benham and Ivor Dunbar. They'll pass over to Duncan Tappi and Johnny Molam. It's fascinating to watch how the second half of this race begins to unfold. Just approaching half race distance, a little bit of a challenge behind, or rather Com Ledegar has made the move, and Alex Moisev, so that puts Ledegar up into admittedly a slightly pit stop assisted 9th place overall. So Ledegar flying. The pit window is open until there's 28 minutes left on the clock as everybody darts to the pit lane now, but they do have another 10 minutes available to them. So Verbeek will hand over to Sam de Jong. Renko Beirao de Viega to Nelson Piquet. That's the 51 BMW as Verbeek comes to a halt. Sam de Jong, who we used to enjoy watch racing in the Euro Formula Open. Will jump in Thomas Biaggi, passes over to Giovanni Venturini. Imperiale team get to work. Likewise, Eduardo Liberati taking over from Kang Ling. Nelson Piquet from Lorenzo Beirao de Viega. Now let's see what Piquet can do. Very successful on the occasion that we have seen him in the International GTOpen. It's going back many seasons ago. Davide Rizzo takes over from Alex Moiseev in the Kaspersky Ferrari as well. They were leading the GTAM class prior to the pit stops. But still out front, as he has been throughout the course of the race, is Albert Costa, winner of race 1 of the season. 2.6 seconds his advantage over Michael Mack, and could this be another triumph for the Lexus? Certainly at the moment, it is looking relatively comfortable for Albert Costa. Smooth pit stop should feed Philip Fromenvila out into the lead of the race. Costa moves down through the gears. Front splitter grinds on the track surface. He accelerates on his way. This is just to complete the 12th lap of the race. In the background, you see Michael Mack darting in to pass over to Miguel Ramos in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. Ramos returning to the wheel of Ferrari once more, having campaigned a Corvette, McLaren and BMW in recent seasons. Spirit of Race team get to work. Put the Michelin tyres onto the car. Ramos clambers in. So that now leaves Albert Costa. Splendid isolation, 9.4 seconds over Rob Bell. Over the course of the season, it's one thing to win a lot of races, it's the consistency that really pays off. So we saw in Estoril, Costa and Fromenvila won the first race, finished in 8th in the second place. Other crews were more consistent through the weekend, which is what subsequently decide the championship. At the end of the season, it's really those who can be consistent as well as those who can win the races. As Fromenvila warms up, going to be on the cusp of taking over fairly shortly from Albert Costa. Just a handful of cars yet to have made their pit stops. Of those that have, it's Victor Bouveng, who is, or rather of those who have, it's Miguel Ramos from Victor Bouveng and Vito Postiglione. Marco Ciocci, as we'd have expected, absolutely flying at the wheel of the AF Corse Ferrari, as is Victor Bouveng in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, but it's still Albert Costa who is pretty much the quickest driver on the track. Lap after lap, it's only he and Jules Simcomiac who are lapping routinely in the sub 2-minute 20-second bracket. So Costa accelerates through on his way, reels off another lap. So that's now 13 completed from Albert Costa. His advantage over Rob Bell continuing to grow, lap upon lap. Last time round, Costa 1 3/4 seconds quicker than Bell, so he builds his buffer to 11.1 seconds. Bell has got Caldarelli still snapping right at his heels. Then Com Ledegar up into 4th position. Antonio Coimbra in 5th, having also not made his pit stop, leading the GTAM class. So along the Kemmel Straight, headlights ablaze for Albert Costa, driver with supreme amount of talent, former Formula Renault Euro Cup champion, also Megane Trophy champion, but then hit the usual challenges that affect any young driver, which are budget issues. Took a little bit of time out of the sport, and He's now found this seat with the Emil Frey Racing Lexus team and has really jumped at the opportunity. Louis Silva and Antonio Coimbra swapping around. So Louis Silva about to take over. Still another 5 minutes in the pit window, so if Costa, Bell and Caldarelli and Ledegar want it, they can go a little bit deeper. Farnbacher Costa. No success handicap for him, of course, and that's going to be potentially fairly decisive for him, because Philip Fromenvila will take over. Maybe not quite as quick as Costa, but there's not an awful lot to choose between them, and certainly Fromenvila isn't going to be several seconds off the pace that's going to open the door to others for the opportunity to try and chase them down. But it's all dependent, of course, on a smooth pit stop from the Emil Frey Racing team. Meanwhile, Valentin Pierberg will get his chance at the wheel of the SPS Automotive Mercedes as the team get to work. Could be a very good battle effectively for second place, because Victor Bouveng has got the jump on Miguel Ramos, according to our timing screens, through the pit stop. So the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW up into effectively second place from Miguel Ramos in third. Ramos only 3.9 seconds back, so that could be worth watching, particularly given the progress of Marco Ciocci and Nelson Piquet chasing down as well. Into the pit lane, meanwhile, comes Andrea Caldarelli. Fusong Yang gets to work unstrapping the Italian, who will vacate the cockpit, make sure he brings his seat insert with him. The Chinese driver hops in. All the teams practicing their pit stop drills throughout the course of the weekend, so that they don't lose any time whatsoever. So Costa almost certainly will come in at the end of this lap, because he's not going to have time for another one before the pit window closes. Drive-through penalty for Valentin Pierberg. I expect that's more for the adventures of his predecessor at the wheel of the Mercedes. I don't think Valentin's done on his run out of the pit lane. But unfortunately, it rather takes that car out of contention, really. Hiroshi Hamaguchi takes over from Vitantonio Liuzzi. Of course, the team are unfortunately losing that time due to the puncture issue for Liuzzi. Again, a very well-drilled pit stop from the Triple F Racing team. The entire pit loop is 75 seconds here, so they won't gain anything for rushing the pit stop. But at the same time, you need to make sure you get everything done, completed in good time, so you don't lose anything either. As Costa, despite having had the 2 safety car periods, close of the pit window, where he, Rob Bell and Tom Ledegar are all going to have to come in, will be coming in with a 13.5 second lead. As Costa brings the car down to the pit lane speed limit, we'll look for the signal for the Emil Frey Racing pit. Philip Fromenvila opens the door. Costa launches himself clear. Fromenvila jumps in. Team get to work. Like scrubbed tyres to me rather than stickers. Now here is a battle between Michael Meadows and Nelson Piquet. This is for 8th and 9th place. Might be slightly more than that by the time the pit stop sequence has worked itself through. And then behind, Eduardo Liberati, Giovanni Venturini and Thomas Enger. And it's Thomas Enger in the Wessex Vehicles Lamborghini who tries to the outside at Pouon. That's a brave move from Enger, and it was never really going to work, but the Czech driver has only lost a 10th of a second or thereabouts. Fusong Yang being slightly swamped by everybody, one would have to suggest. The other driver who's absolutely flying lower down the field is Johnny Molam, who on that last lap was actually the quickest driver in the race, 2 minutes 19.5, and that's also the quickest lap of the race altogether. So Molam is down in 19th place, but he is on the charge. So out of the pits has already come Philip Frommenwieler. So the expectation is that he has taken the lead the race and rejoined in the lead. Yes, he has. There is the Swiss. And he crucially navigates Eau Rouge and Ratón without drama in his outlap. We have seen many, many times here at Spa. Drivers on fresh rubber, possibly getting it all wrong. So it's Frommenwieler who leads the way. Well, and he's got a fairly comfortable advantage over Victor Bouveng in second place. Now Bouveng, his last lap was a 2 minutes 20.5. His deficit to Philip Frommenwieler 9.3 seconds as they complete the first sector. Third place then is Miguel Ramos. In fourth, it's Vito Postiglione. Fifth, Marco Ciocci. And then sixth, Sean Balfe. Seventh, Nelson Piquet. Eighth is going to be Michael Meadows. Alex West gets rejoined from the pits. Yeah, and that's why. So Alex West, car that's brought in by Com Ledegaard, I think just a little bit too badly damaged to continue with. So real pity for the Garage 59 squad. Their other car in the hands of Duncan Tappy, currently in 16th position. Meanwhile, they have Wildre Liberati under real pressure from Giovanni Venturini and Thomas Enger. This is a fight for 9th, 10th and 11th. Three Lamborghinis going at it wheel to wheel. And it's the Gallardo chasing the two Hurricanes. Meanwhile, here is Nelson Piquet in pursuit of Sean Balfe. This is the fight for 6th and 7th place. Nelson Piquet, former F1 racer, of course, of Renault, former Formula E champion. Sean Balfe, runner-up in the International GTOpen last year. This could be a very enjoyable scrap, particularly as they got the Jordan Racing Bentley. Michael Meadows not too far adrift of them either. This is all happening some 30 seconds off the lead of the race. As Piquet looks to try and line up the move on the McLaren into Blanchimont. Nothing doing there, but you can see Piquet in the Beamer closing onto the tail of Sean Balfe, but Sean's not going to give anything away here to Piquet because Balfe racing for a championship. He's currently second in the Pro-Am class as well to Marco Ciocci. Michael Meadows just behind them is the third of the Pro-Am cars. As Piquet has a little bit of a look to the inside of Sean Balfe as they come into the hairpin at the source. Meadows in the Bentley closing up as well, so it's McLaren, BMW, Bentley running down towards Eau Rouge. Climbing then uphill steeply over the curbs at Ratón. And then down the Kemmel Straight. This is BMW and Bentley territory. Just caught a glimpse there of Postiglione and Ciocci ahead of them as Nelson Piquet looks to come out of the slipstream behind Sean Balfe. Michael Meadows looks to do the same as the BMW got the legs on the McLaren as they turn into Les Combes. Yes, he has. So Piquet gains the place, goes 6th. Balfe into 7th, but immediately into the clutches of Michael Meadows in the Bentley. The question is now, how much further can Nelson Piquet go? So the race order is, and a little bit of a tap there possibly from Meadows onto Sean Balfe. The order is Philip Frommenwieler leads, Victor Bouveng is 2nd, Miguel Ramos is 3rd, Vito Postiglione is 4th, Marco Ciocci is 5th, leading the Pro-Am class, Nelson Piquet 6th, which is the fight we're watching now. 7th and 2nd Pro-Am is Sean Balfe, 8th and 3rd Pro-Am is Michael Meadows, then 9th is Edoardo Liberati, and 10th Giovanni Venturini. Davide Rizzo currently leads the GTOpen class in the Kaspersky Ferrari, ahead of Luis Silva. Here is the battle for 9th place. Edoardo Liberati, Giovanni Venturini and Thomas Enger. At the front of the field, I can tell you that Philip Frommenwieler is pulling away all the while from Victor Bouveng. Bouveng likewise moving clear of Miguel Ramos, with then Vito Postiglione and Marco Ciocci there battling wheel to wheel for 4th and 5th place. So still a lot of places to be resolved over the next 20 minutes or so. This battle blasts out of Blanchimont. Engel looks to line up the move on Venturini. You may well have found sort of an opening, not really. Venturini wasn't having any of it, and Thomas Engel, as a result, couldn't quite sneak past. Engel, of course, also enjoying a great deal of success racing in the United States for a few seasons. As Venturini just looked for a moment as if he had possibly lost the car under braking. Any drama, he gathered up very quickly, but he's now under threat from Engel as they plunge downhill. And the Italian, who finished 10th in the Italian GT Championship last year, loses the place to Thomas Engel. Now this is the fight for 4th place. Vito Postiglione and Marco Ciocci. Postiglione in the second of the Imperiale Racing Lamborghinis as Michael Meadows swoops around the outside of Sean Balfe. Moves 7th, puts Balfe into 8th place. Piquet released into clear air. Front of the field, the leading trio of cars all driving away from each other. Really, the main jeopardy that we might have for the podium is if Marco Ciocci can clear Vito Postiglione before too long. That might just give Ciocci the chance to chase down Miguel Ramos, but it's going to be a tall order for Ciocci, because the first thing he's got to do is find a way past the Lamborghini, and he can't quite do it through Fagna. Postiglione runs a little bit wide. 40-year-old Italian Vito Postiglione heading his compatriot Marco Ciocci. Ciocci, of course, the leader of the Pro-Am class. And all the while at the front of the field, Philip Fromvilla absolutely dominating things. Second place is currently Victor Bouveng, third Miguel Ramos, fourth Vito Postiglione, fifth Marco Ciocci, sixth Nelson Piquet, seventh Michael Meadows, eighth Sean Balfe, ninth Edoardo Liberati, and 10th Thomas Engel. Here's the Meadows and Balfe battle. And 12th place in the GTOpen is Davide Rizzo, 13th place is Sam de Jong for the Aston Martin Brussels team, 14th is Alain Coder in the Drivex Mercedes, and then 15th Duncan Tappy in the Garage 59 McLaren. Now the fight that might change is this one behind, because Thomas Engel already on terms with Edoardo Liberati, trying to hustle his way past the Huracan. The trio of Lamborghinis. And downhill is again Marco Ciocci trying to force a move from Vito Postiglione. Postiglione finished third in the Italian GT series last year. Knows exactly where to place the Huracan, not making life at all easy for Marco Ciocci. Now the pace that they're fighting at the moment is just giving Nelson Piquet the chance to cruise up to their tail. You can't see Piquet yet, but he's about 6 seconds back, but closing at a rate of 2 seconds a lap. Sean Balfe, I think, will be quite glad that Thomas Engel can't dispatch Edoardo Liberati just yet, because the second that Engel's through, you rather get the sense that he'd be chasing down Balfe as well. Ciocci still hustling Postiglione and losing the place back is Thomas Engel. He gets repassed by Giovanni Venturini. Engel, though, looks to challenge through Paul. Venturini runs wide, launches over the curb, and that is where we lost Fernando Morhe this time last year. Fortunately, without the same outcome for Giovanni Venturini. He lands, rejoins just to the loss of a little bit of ground. Thomas Engel pushing very, very hard in the Wessex Vehicles Lamborghini. Tail of the car kicking out. Car that won at Silverstone last year in the hands of Dolby and Engel. Giovanni Venturini and Thomas Biaggi playing the long game in the championship. Now here is a look at it. Venturini there, you see, up into the air, all four wheels off the ground. Here is Philip Frommenvilla. And from Vila, his last lap, I have to tell you, wasn't a particularly quick one. It was a 2 minutes 23.4, as opposed to a 2 minutes 20 from Victor Bouveng. Albert Costa watches nervously. To the Emil Frey Racing Lexus team. Now, is this a case of From and Vila just having a bad lap? Or is it a case of something a little bit more? Meanwhile, Chiocci and Postiglione still do battle in the background. Now you can see the progress of Nelson Piquet, who took another second out of this pair on his previous lap. We've got headlights being flashed all the while by Marco Chiocci. As they swing down out of Bruxelles, we've got a car that's gone off the end of the second sector as well, which I rather fear is that of Fu Song Yang. Find out in a moment's time. Approaching that yellow flag zone now. Once again, Chiocci looking just to try and apply the pressure to Vito Postiglione. What it has done, though, is maybe given a little bit of a decisive buffer, one would have to suggest, to Miguel Ramos in third place. Yes, there we see the car off the road of Fu Song Yang. It's pointing in the wrong direction, which rather suggests that he had a rotational moment. Much better lap from the race leader, Philip From Vila, as he comes past the commentary box at 2 minutes 21 exactly, and that's going to be quicker than Victor Bouveng. So Bouveng, having gained the ground, hasn't taken away from him fairly promptly. There you see Fu Song Yang's car. Looks as if there is some damage to the front left corner on it, unfortunately. Into La Source for the 21st time in this fight for fourth position. They are still slowly being joined by Nelson Piquet. Piquet now 4.3 seconds back from this pair. And Piquet pulling away from Michael Meadows. Sean Balfe still got a buffer over Eduardo Liberati, who somehow keeping Tom Senk behind him. Now here is Victor Bouveng, and Bouveng in the TMRT Motorsport BMW. Very impressive performance. This is just his second weekend in the International GTOpen. The 21-year-old Swedish driver, racing in the VLN series last year, moving into the International GTOpen this season, immediately reaping the rewards. This is a circuit that arguably suits the BMW, but nonetheless, Rader and Bouveng have executed the race strategy perfectly. Still, this squabble for fourth continues. There in the background is Nelson Piquet, ever closer. The challenge here for Marco Chiocci is that whilst you can just sense he's appreciably quicker than Postiglione, there's absolutely nothing that Chiocci's been able to do thus far to overhaul the Lamborghini. As they battle, it is allowing Nelson Piquet to start to close in. Michael Meadows behind is also catching this group. And again, Chiocci tries to apply the pressure to the Lamborghini Huracan coming out of Stavolo. Part of the challenge is the Lamborghini Huracan is a car which is just so well balanced, sort of across all the performance parameters. It's quick in a straight line, it handles well, it brakes well, and therefore is a very, very difficult proposition to overtake. As you can see, Chiocci having to resort to pretty much every trick in his book, as Postiglione makes absolutely no errors. There's an awful lot they can do. They're about to catch up with Valentin Pierberg, who served his drive-through penalty now in the SPS Automotive Mercedes, so that might give an opportunity to Chiocci, who again flashes his headlights. Miguel Ramos now 8 seconds up the road ahead of them, so even if Chiocci were to make the pass, he and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini looks increasingly frustrated. I don't think we'll be able to do much about reeling in Miguel Ramos in third, as they head out of Ratón once more. Chiocci again trying to force the error from Postiglione. Postiglione having absolutely none of it. Down the Kemmel straight. The BMW of Nelson Piquet looming in the background. 1.7 seconds Piquet took out the pair of them last time round. As Postiglione defends, moves across, takes the racing line. Nothing doing. Again, Chiocci flashes his headlights. There is Piquet, there is Meadows. Really is this fight for fourth, which has been the principal entertainment in the second half of the race. Fastest lap, by the way, should remind you, still in the hands of Johnny Molam, currently in 16th place, just behind Duncan Tappy in 15th. Alan Codir is 14th, Sam de Jong 13th. Davide Rizzo still leads the GTOpen class in 12th place. Pierberg runs very, very wide coming out of Fagna and possibly pulls the Mercedes to a halt. So that's a real shame. Valentin Pierberg, car that's got a great deal of pace and potential, not making it through to the checker flag this afternoon. So 11 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. This is the third race of the season in the International GTOpen. Philip Fromenvila, our race leader. Second place is Victor Bouveng. Third is Miguel Ramos. We are watching the fight for fourth between Vito Postiglione and Marco Chiocci. They are being caught by sixth place man Nelson Piquet at a rate of 1.7 seconds a lap. In seventh place we've got Michael Meadows. Eighth is Sean Balfe. Ninth Eduardo Liberati, and completing the top 10 Thomas Enger. Into La Source once more. Nelson Piquet now just 1.5 seconds back from the tail of Chiocci. At this rate of capture, he's going to be on them at the end of this lap. So they plummet to the compression at Eau Rouge before climbing out of Ratón. Oh, a little bit twitchy there from Chiocci. He's trying everything he can. Nelson Piquet, he's got the luxury of not being in turbulent air at the moment. He can just get his head down and get on with the business of closing up the... A note has just come up on our timing screen saying that flashing is not allowed. I assume that means headlight flashing. Certainly, Marco Chiocci has been fairly liberal in the use of his headlight beams. Yeah, and in fact the note is amended, say flashing is not allowed car 8, meaning specifically Marco Chiocci. But you just get a sense of Chiocci's frustration because he's been digging very deep, doing all he can to try and overhaul Vito Postiglione, but Postiglione has had an answer to absolutely everything. Just under 10 minutes on the clock, so they've got time probably for 5 more laps, depending on which point Philip Fromenvila crosses the line. And Chiocci's just slipped back a little bit from Postiglione over the course of this lap. Whether or not the Ferrari driver has maybe just got through the best of his tyres, I don't know. But Nelson Piquet is right onto terms now with Marco Chiocci, and Vito Postiglione has got a decent buffer. We'll see as the shot widens. Oh yeah, Chiocci's in trouble because Piquet's passed him, and where is Chiocci? There he is. Oh, he's got a puncture. So Chiocci in the AF Corse Ferrari's picked up a front left puncture and smoke pouring forth. We'll just wait for him to come into view. There's Michael Meadows, there is Marco Chiocci. So all of Chiocci's efforts, unfortunately, to go unrewarded, and that promotes Michael Meadows to the lead of the Pro-Am class. It promotes Sean Balfe to second in class. Or will do, as Balfe takes evasive action as Chiocci makes it to the pits. So here is the race leader, Philip Fromenvila. 10.3 seconds is advantage over Victor Bouveng. This has been fairly dominant stuff once more for the Emil Frey Lexus. We're looking like we're going to have 3 Lexus victories in the opening 3 races of the season. As Chiocci comes in. Yeah, of course, mechanics getting to work. rather him than me, for grabbing that probably white-hot reel we're in. Anyway, Ciocci's going to rejoin. He may, it's a big may, but he may just be able to better Alain Cordair. As also in trouble is Thomas Enger in the Wessex Vehicles Lamborghini Gallardo. That's a real pity. Enger is in. Is it another change of wheel that's required? Possibly. So the order all starting to shuffle at the end of the race. Now, it's quite interesting talking to the teams this morning. They were all unconcerned really about tyre wear for today. They know that Spa is a tough track on the tyres, but they didn't think that it was going to be any more attritional than normal. But possibly the heat of the day as well means that as we get late on, they may have just pushed their tyres a little bit harder than necessary. Philip Fromavila slows the Lexus into the bus stop chicane, accelerates out. 7 minutes and change left on the clock. It's lapping at a rate of 2 minutes 20 seconds. It's going to be touch and go as there's Ciocci on his out lap, pushing a little bit hard. It's going to be touch and go actually, whether we've got time for 3 more laps or squeeze out a 4th. There is Victor Bouvet, 2nd place, really impressive from he and Fran Rueda this afternoon. And the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. 10 seconds adrift of Philip Fromavila, but also able to build up a near 10-second advantage over Miguel Ramos during the 2nd phase of the race. And there you see the gap from 1st to 2nd, the length of the Kemmel Straight. And we'll look into the background as well. We might, there we see Miguel Ramos shooting to view. Meanwhile, Duncan Tappy has picked up a 5-second penalty for not respecting the track limits. And at the moment, though, that's going to have no bearing on Tappy's overall position. So here's Alain Cordair in the Drivex Mercedes that he shares with Marcello Hahn. Not seen an awful lot of the Brazilian pairing this afternoon, except to say that with the demise of Marco Ciocci, that is now promoting this car to 3rd in the Pro-Am class and a trip to the rostrum. So lots to potentially celebrate in 6 minutes' time for the Drivex squad. Top 10 finish overall, looking like it's going to be on the cards. There, you can see in the background he's got Sam de Jong trying to chase him down. There, the last lap was 1.5 seconds quicker than Sam de Jong. He just runs wide a little bit out over the curb, downhill into Bruxelles again. The car just wants to understeer. The camber of the corner just tries to push the car away. Up over the curb. There, certainly pushing hard as he needs to into Pouon, running a little bit dangerously. Now here's the 3rd place car of Miguel Ramos. He and Michael Mack looking set for their 1st podium of the season. Through the bus stop chicane, Ramos, former champion of the International GTOpen, has been a front runner for many, many seasons now, always there at the sharp end of the field. Change of team and equipment for this season. Estoril was a learning weekend. This weekend looks like it's going to reward them with a podium. Now here is Victor Bouvet. Behind, there has been a 5-second penalty for Vito Postiglione in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini for track limits, and that's important because it now promotes an adjusted time. Nelson Piquet up into 4th position. So potentially a very good day for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. A 2nd place and a 4th place. An even better one looking likely for the Emil Frey Racing Lexus team, because if things stay as they are, then Philip Fromavila and Albert Costa will have won 2 of the opening 3 races of the International GTOpen season. I just wonder if the team are going to be on the radio to Philip Frommenwieler, getting him to time the completion of this lap to make sure that there's not time for another one, because his last lap was a 2:21. So that's essentially what we need left on the clock to know whether or not we're going to the last lap of the race or not. At the moment, I think Frommenwieler might just sneak through to make it 2 more laps, though he can certainly afford to give away a second or 2 here to make it so he does go into the last lap of the race, therefore not have to put another 7 kilometres of running on the car, as across the line now accelerates Frommenwieler. And he actually does one of his quickest laps for some time, a 2:20.6. So it's not quite the last lap of the race, but with a 12-second advantage, you might just get the nod from the team to ease it off, let the clock tick to 0 and take the flag. Particularly as it is 1.3 seconds quicker than Victor Bouveng last time around. As he climbs out of Lake Com, over Eau Rouge, over Radion. Albert Costa watches from the pit wall. It was a fairly turbulent stint for Costa with those 2 early safety cars that we had, but thereafter it's been smooth running all the way. They pitted late, let Costa run the laps, and then Frommenwieler has inherited a very good position. The same, Victor Bouveng, he and Frommenwieler judging race strategy very nicely, taking advantage of a few gaps opening up early on. Good pit stop, and the team feeding Bouveng out into second. And again, with a good advantage over Miguel Ramos in third. And Ramos hasn't really been able to do anything about chasing down the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. Bouveng's advantage now the best part of 10 seconds or so over Miguel Ramos. So into the last minute on the clock. Are we going to squeeze 1 more lap out of this one? Was Philip Frommenwieler going to take the checkered flag on this occasion? You can see the advantage that Bouveng has got over Miguel Ramos. For Ramos and Michael Mack, though, this a very promising result, because they always knew Estoril wouldn't really suit the Ferrari 488, but they knew that the tracks to come, starting here at Spa, would. Certainly the Ferraris have all seemed very well sorted this weekend, so 15 seconds left on the clock. Sneaking through the bus stop chicane. Philip Frommenwieler slowing it down, is he? Or not? He sneaks across the line with 2 seconds left on the clock, so he goes into the final lap of the race now. To Bouveng in second, and then Ramos in third. Another 10 seconds back. Ramos, by the way, unlikely to be caught by Postiglione and Piquet, because they're doing battle, but Postiglione possibly looking down the barrel of a 5-second penalty at the end of the race. Pro-Am class, that's going to be claimed by Michael Meadows from Sean Balfe, and then Alain Coder on course to complete the Pro-Am podium, with Davide Rizzo looking likely to win the GT-Am class alongside Smoisev, with Luis Silva and Antonio Coimbra second in the GT-Am standings. That is how it is looking. None of those places actually under particular jeopardy through this final lap of the race. Getting into the traffic a little bit is Philip Frommenwieler, that is Luis Silva, the sporting new Mercedes, who he's catching. Just a little flash of the headlights from Frommenwieler to let Silva know that he's there. I can't see Luis Silva putting up too much opposition to going a lap down to Philip Frommenwieler. Indeed, that's exactly the case. So Frommenwieler to the inside. The Mercedes and now the Lexus just a few corners from home for Philip Frommenwieler and Albert Costa. This has really been fantastic start to the season. They're going to get 2 victories from 3 races. As Fromavila picks up the throttle now, accelerates on the run towards Blanchimont. Lexus RCF GT3. Something of an unknown quantity coming into the season, but it has immediately been bang on the pace. And it is going to be victory here in Spa-Francorchamps, the 3rd race of the season for the Emil Frey Racing Lexus team, as Philippe Fromavila accelerates out of the bus stop chicane for the final time. He takes the checkered flag, and he and Albert Costa are victorious in Spa. Dominantly so. Delight for Albert Costa. He celebrates with the team on the pit wall. An excellent 2nd place to Victor Bouveng and Fran Rueda, to the delight of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW squad. And they thoroughly enjoyed that. And here is our Pro-Am class leader, Michael Meadows. He and Jordan Witt in the Jordan Racing Bentley, all set for class victory. Miguel Ramos and Mikel Mack have taken 3rd place in the race overall, as Meadows navigates the bus stop chicane. A really nicely judged performance from both drivers in the Bentley, and they take the Pro-Am class victory from Sean Balfe and Rob Bell, who keep their run of Pro-Am podiums going. As well, their Liberati follows across the line in the Ratón Racing Lamborghini. Already into Parc Fermé and ready to celebrate is Philippe Fromavila. A jubilant Albert Costa comes to join him. Hugs and high fives. Lots to celebrate. And it is the Lexus that takes the victory. Meanwhile, Davide Rizzo has come across the line to claim GTOpen class honours for he and Alex Moisev. As thumbs up from Victor Bouveng as he jumps out of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. I think he really enjoyed that. Pats the car to thank it. There is Fran Rueda, who comes to join him. Applause and congratulations. As Miguel Ramos extricates himself from the Ferrari 488. Hot work, as you can see, for the Portuguese driver, but an excellent 3rd place. He and Mikel Mack bang on the pace all day. Same for Michael Meadows and Jordan Witt. They win the Pro-Am class. So Costa and Fromavila victorious, with from Bouveng and Rueda, then Ramos and Mack. Lorenzo Beral de Viega and Nelson Piquet making it a great day for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Both their cars inside the top 4. Vito Postiglione and Alex Andrea Fontana to 5th place. Jordan Witt and Michael Meadows winning the Pro-Am class, and 6th overall from Sean Balfe and Rob Bell, with Shelohan Alam Koder completed the Pro-Am podium in 10th place. Word for Johnny Molam, great drive from him, fastest lap and up into 12th, just behind Tim Verbeek and Sam de Jong, with Mike Benham and Duncan Tappy, and indeed the Garage 59 McLaren squad in the wars a little bit today. Alex Moisev and Davide Rizzo winning the GTOpen class from Antonio Coimbra and Luis Silva. Teo Martin offering some words of support to his former driver, Miguel Ramos. Thumbs up from Ramos nonetheless.
Albert Costa, Philippe Fromavila, 2nd win of the year. Fantastic here in Spa. Albert, are you happier with the win or with the pole?
Well, both things, no? I mean, always it's good to have a pole after so many years with driving, and Yeah, of course, another win for the team, for us is amazing. We make a really good job. It was the first time for the car in this truck already yesterday. We missed the second free practice and still pole position and win the race. Good job by my teammate also, because he kept the pressure from the car behind, so really happy with the job done.
Philip, a perfect start of the season. You couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the team, Emil Frey Racing Lexus, and of course Albert, he did an amazing job. So yeah, we are really happy and we enjoy it to be here again on the podium.
Well done, guys, and it's good for the championship. Podium now.
Thank you.
A huge field of cars around Spa-Francorchamps is always going to be fun. And the first race of the Spa weekend proving to be no exception, with Albert Costa leading away from Michael Mack as they charged towards La Source for the first time, with Rob Bell and Com Ledegar hustling their McLarens up into third and fourth respectively. Craig Dolby and Andrea Caldarelli enjoyed a good scrap in the early stages, as behind there were plenty of dices to enjoy. Fortunately, the race was marred by a couple of early safety cars, not least this one as Com Ledegar dropped out of contention. Nonetheless, when we did get going, the field were able to fight their way around the track, not least the progress of Jules Cognac in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Thomas Enger, once he took over at the wheel of the Wessex vehicles, Lamborghini was also keen to give as good as he got and enjoyed a great scrap with Giovanni Venturini. Front of the field, though, it was a dominant day for the Emil Frey Racing team. Philip Fromenvilla and Albert Costa scoring their second victory of the season ahead of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. Victor Bouveng and Fran Rueda with Miguel Ramos and Michael Mack completing the rostrum. Michael Meadows and Jordan Witt winning the Pro-Am class, with Davide Rizzo and Alex Moisev the GTM class winners. So a hugely enjoyable afternoon's racing in glorious sunshine in Spa, and now time to celebrate on the rostrum. 6 very happy drivers about to be announced onto the rostrum. So first of all, third place in the Spirit of Race Ferrari, Michael Mack and Miguel Ramos. Runners up, Victor Bouveng and Fran Rueda for Teo Martin Motorsport. And then Emil Frey Racing in the Lexus once more. Philip Fromenvilla and Albert Costa to the top step of the rostrum. National anthems completed, time to move on to the presentation of the trophies. Third place for Ramos and Mack. Good to see the Ferrari going well. Still a lot of racing to come in the championship this year. Runners up for Bouveng and Rueda. A very youthful pairing at the wheel of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, taking full advantage of a great qualifying from Rueda. And then Fromenvilla and Albert Costa celebrating their second win of the season, this time on a sweltering afternoon in Spa. And the same for Emil Frey Racing in the Lexus. Trophies hoisted aloft. Time to turn attention to the bubbly and celebration on the rostrum. Of course, the weekend only half done for the drivers, because they will be back, as indeed will we, at about 2:05 local time tomorrow for the 4th race of the season. and they'll be qualifying for that first thing tomorrow morning. But there are still podium festivities to be completed, and it will be next the turn of the Pro-Am drivers. Third place for Marcello Hahn and Alam Coder in the Drivex Mercedes. Runners-up, Sean Balfe and Rob Bell in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. And class winners, Michael Meadows and Jordan Witt in the Jordan Racing Bentley. So we've got our runners-up. Anyway, Sean Balfe and Rob Bell. Our race, our class winners, Jordan Witt and Michael Meadows. And Alan Cadet, Marcello Hahn to the third step on the Pro-Am class rostrum. Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps, where in the next hour and a half we're going to be watching 25 supercars doing battle around one of the world's finest racing circuits as we get ready for the third race of the 2017 International GTOpen season. This is the second of 7 stops around some fantastic venues. And you join myself, Ben Evans, on an absolutely gorgeous afternoon here in Belgium. The sun has been beating down unremittingly all day. There's not a cloud to be found in the sky, and it is a very busy grid. So let's head down there and join Johnny Molam.
Thanks, Ben. Well, we're here on the grid for Spa-Francorchamps, probably one of the greatest tracks in the world. And look at the weather. Fantastic grid for the International GTOpen race here. The sun is shining. There's barely a cloud in the sky, which is quite unusual for Spa. We've got here on the right-hand side the pole-sitting Lexus by Alberto Costa. Fantastic lap in qualifying. Let's just see if we can grab a word with him before we start the race. Alberto, congratulations on a fantastic pole lap. Awesome lap. How was it for you out there?
Well, we are not expecting that, to be honest. Yesterday we had an issue in the brakes during the second free practice. When the first free practice I was P3. Actually the rhythm was pretty good, but yeah, as I said, I was not expecting the first stint of new tires. I was P5 or 6, and then I just make improvement in myself because the car was from the beginning really good to drive, and yeah, I improved myself. The car answered my driving really good, and yeah, so happy to be my first pole position on GTs, also for Lexus and for my team Emil Frey.
Were you flat in Eau Rouge? I assume you were, yeah?
Yeah, of course. If you want to do pole position, you need to be flat out always.
And what about tyre warm-up? Do you think you'll be able to go flat through Eau Rouge first